This past Monday at 7:42 a.m. when I began to study this passage, I could feel the tension in your shoulders. I could hear some of you clench your teeth. Jesus is telling a story, but this is the truest passage in all the Bible. At first blush, passage makes us concerned, but when you live by the logic of this passage, you actually say, well, I'm actually being smart and sensible, responsible, even economical. For instance, let's just think about how true this is. You have a friend and you have a neighbor and they love to work on their car. Isn't that the best neighbor? They do the repairs themselves. You crank it, it sputters, misfires, blows smoke. One day you're making chit-chat with him and you say, yeah, I've got to take my car to my mechanic. Last week the car started making this sound, and you make that car sound that you make. But there, as you're making chit-chat, on their side of the property, in the driveway, is a car that is idling and backfiring somehow and shaking like that car from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and fluid is dripping onto the driveway. Who do you take your car to? Come on. Yeah, you take it to your mechanic, whose garage is full, whose parking lot is full. The one who has many gets more, right? Because they have shown themselves capable. It's ability and responsibility, right? It's the truest passage in the Bible. We all live this. Before I get to the text, let me tell you about my $300 million lesson. It wasn't my money, so it's okay. I worked for a startup software company for a period of time. We were about 30 employees, 1,000 or so customers. And then we were acquired by a publicly traded company. And then overnight, we went from a company of 30 employees to being grouped in a company with 2,300 employees. After acquisition, I was in the murky middle of management, enjoying my job. And then I, because grammar matters, I and a lot of other folks were on a call with our CEO and CFO, and it was like earnings, projections, all of that. And one of them said, this year we will achieve $300 million in revenue, and our investors want 20% return next year. I thought 300 million was a lot. The budget in my department didn't increase. The number of people that reported to me didn't increase. And I said to myself, how are we going to reap where we did not plant seeds? And that's when I realized something, and it's this. You need $60 million, right? So what do? Well, you go find a small startup company in Memphis, Tennessee with $5 million of revenue, and now you only need $55 million because the revenue becomes yours. And you do that 5 or 6 times and you land a big one. Business. I thought 300 million was a lot of money. But for some people, in some circumstances, 300 million is not a lot. There was a man, Jesus said in this story, that approached the world like hungry, hungry hippos. There's enough for everyone to be happy, right? But he just wants to gobble up opportunity after opportunity. As a matter of fact, you can finish this statement. When someone asked this man, how much money is enough? He said, a little bit more. A little bit more. So he goes on a journey. But this is the kind of, you know why he goes on a journey? He smells money. This is the type of cat who doesn't go on a vacation unless he sees a business opportunity there. Right? It's the gospel of boondoggle. right? Little work, a little pay. So he sees an opportunity. Now this passage says master slave. This kind of slavery in Jesus' time was bad. Different than chattel slavery. It was a type of employment. If you were poor or if you were captured in war, you would become a slave. You would become a worker. So it's not pretty, but Jesus is telling a story based on his culture at that time. So this man says, you three, I'm giving you this. You get this much, you get this much, you get this much. I'm going to be back. They don't know when he's going to return. So they can't take anything for granted. Pardon me. Now, Jesus says he gives 5, he gives 2, he gets 1. And you and I read that passage and we say, small potatoes. 5, 2, 1. But a talent is a type of currency. Weird name, but it's a talent. And 1 talent was equal to 6,000 days of work. 20 years, because they work 6 days a week. 20 years. So just using New York State minimum wage, that's $720,000 the third one gets. Changes the story, doesn't it? Because you read it the first time and you're like, yeah, it's just 1. $720,000. So the first guy takes 3.6, makes it 7.2. You're on the finance committee. Congratulations. He comes back, shows himself capable, responsible, and then the owner says, you get more. You get more responsibility. Enter the joy of your master. You know what that is? Isn't this fun? Isn't this fun? You don't have to worry about the cares of your life again, and you get to take a risk. You get to look at an opportunity. Isn't this fun? Enter the joy of your master. Because his salary was part of the profit. The second one takes 1.4, turns it into 2.8. You're on buildings and grounds. Thank you. Fix the tower. Okay. Enter the joy of your master. You made money. You made me happy. Mr. Third Guy, get over here. The guy says, I knew that you were a hard and exacting man. And you have a thirst for profit, and you can just make money appear out of thin air. I have no idea. And so I was scared. And I did nothing. But I didn't lose anything. Yes, you did. Yes, you did, because you did nothing. And why is it dirty? What did you do to this money? Here's what makes me angry with you. You know that I'm audacious. You have seen me lose money before. But I got back up, and the next day I looked for a different opportunity. You've seen me lose money. You've seen me make money. You've seen me take a stab at something, and sometimes I miss. I wanted you to do what you've learned from me. By the way, folks, he got $720,000 by showing himself capable, right? I mean, the guy is pretty shrewd, so he's not just going to see a person on the corner and said, hey, I'm going to give you $720,000. Can you do something with this? There's a relationship here. But for some reason, this guy just buries it. If we were meeting in a home group or like a community group at someone's home, I would probably ask a question like, what would you do with $720,000? Don't daydream, okay? Don't daydream. Right here. That's why I hired you. You were supposed to have the same energy and mindset as me. Sure, maybe you didn't have the entrepreneurship and the connections of the first or the luck of the second guy, but you could have even just pooled your money with them, but you did nothing. And you can't be neutral. You cannot be neutral on a moving train. You cannot be neutral because that means that the world is going to pass you by. This is the truest thing in the Bible. This is the truest thing in the Bible. You know what it's like? You know what it's like? It's like learning to scramble eggs and make toast. It's exactly like that. What in the world is this guy talking about? Barb and I encourage our kids to cook their own food. Make your own calzone. I'm tired. It's their snacks. We cook for them. Toast. I want to learn to make toast. You're already halfway there, right? You always use a knife. You don't tear the bread like a Philistine, okay? You use this type of knife, and you always use a cutting board. And you cannot, once you put it in the toaster, you cannot go play a video game. Because what's going to happen? Yep, they're going to burn, right? I want to cook eggs. Okay. Well, first you have to learn to break the egg without somehow getting it on the floor and the ceiling at the same time. Right? Just a prerequisite. Like, you've got to crack an egg first. Okay? Then you have to learn how to pour the egg into the skillet without burning yourself. And you have to be tall enough and coordinated enough to, to flip the egg without flipping it out of the skillet. And then you have to be able to move the egg from the skillet to your plate. Show me you can crack an egg. Ability, responsibility, right? You grow. This is the truest thing in the Bible. It's the truest thing in the Bible. And eventually they stop asking us, can I? Because we say, you don't have to ask again because we trust you. Because Barb and I know that one day we will be on a long journey, probably to Target, running some type of errand, and they're going to be hungry, and they have to be able to cook and not burn themselves and not hit their brother with the hot spatula when he comes through the kitchen, right? This is the traveling circus. Show me you can crack an egg. Now, if you were in New Testament class, you know what the professor would say? The professor would say, Jesus knows what's about to happen to him. And he is about to go into the long journey of the cross, the grave, hell. He will ascend to the Father in heaven. And he is teaching the disciples how to live in this world and to spend their life well. That's the sermon. Everything else was adornment. That's the sermon. So how do you invest yourself into this world and grow the goodness and kingdom of God with what you have? Be audacious, be willing to act, understand the risk, trust your experience, show yourself capable and willing, fight apathy, fight fear. Look at what you already know and build off of that. God has trusted all of us with something valuable, right? Why don't you just feel free to name something? What's God given you?
My son.
Your son, yes. He's a fortune, right?
He's a miracle.
Yeah. What else? Friendship. What else? Come on. Health. Yes, health. Yeah. What did you say? Meg singing. So some of you have skills. Some of you have a degree. Some of you have talents. But we all have one life. Right? Not 5, not 2, not 1. So this church is actually kind of like a piggy bank. God's piggy bank, filled with treasure. And he has put us here to grow. That's what it's all about, right? It's just growth. Growth. So Yesterday, oh, that clock is very fast. Okay, good. There's a clock right there, sorry. Yesterday, for the past 2 months, consistory, elders, deacons, myself, we have been talking about kind of the ideas around this passage, using other words, using other imagery. God has never handed me $720,000. But God has handed me leadership of a 307-year-old institution, religious institution in the city of Poughkeepsie. So my job is to think seriously and happily about how to grow. Like, what does it mean for us to grow? I think God would be sorely disappointed if we just hid, like a turtle in a shell. Let me speak to you, please, on a more personal level, and then I will close. Some of you may realize that you are the third person in this story. But instead of hiding money, you're hiding yourself, your true self, or parts of yourself. So instead of living with the audacity that God has, you hide. What do I mean by the audacity of God? God, through Jesus Christ, said, I will be my true self. I will be both fully human and fully divine, and the world will be made better because of it. Friends, I don't know any other way to say this than to say it. The world, you, your family, your church, your community, they are all made better, and they all grow when you embrace who you truly are. And I wonder if this could be a place where we help each other uncover ourselves. That's why you hear me talk time and time again about mercy and compassion and inclusiveness and openness, that we allow each other to be and to become. Don't you want to be a part of a church like that? Or a family like that? Wouldn't that be amazing? Like, you look at your kids and you say, all I know about my kids is this, is that when they were born, I felt something inside of me say, whatever you become, I am your father. Whatever you grow and become, whoever you are, first off, it's a mystery, right? You look into their eyes. Whatever you are, whatever you become, whatever you grow to be, I will be there with you and for you. So why do we think that God would be anything other than that? Right? Does this hit you? You have one life, and you're here with this group of, talented people. That's a clever use of that word. So what we are committed to do as the governing board of your church, as your minister, as elders and deacons, is to not waste the opportunity that we have. So I cannot wait to see what God uncovers here. Because I think we're going to say, oh, this is the delight of the master. So let's do it together.